Good evening. I'm Josh Brumberg, the interim president here at the Graduate Center. It's my great pleasure to welcome you here tonight to celebrate the astonishing musical accomplishments of Tanya Leon and her decades as an educator at CUNY, both at Brooklyn College and here at the Graduate Center. Tanya is a prime example of the outstanding faculty we're proud to have here at CUNY. In addition to those of you in the room, I would also like to acknowledge those of you who are streaming in on Zoom. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to CUNY Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez, who is joining us this evening. Tonight's event is made possible with funding from our new Elabosh Global Voices Fund. This $1 million endowment fund, a gift from JP Morgan, will ensure that global voices are represented on this stage in perpetuity. I would also like to thank JP Morgan and acknowledge Lindsay Crane and Laura Hoffman, who are here with us tonight. Thank you. As a public university, the Graduate Center and its associated Advanced Science Research Center are committed to the idea that our scholarship has a role in advancing the public good. Before touching on tonight's event, as many of you know, the Graduate Center is the national leader in graduate education at the master's and especially the doctoral levels. It is the home of innovative research and creative works of Nobel, Guggenheim, and Pulitzer Prize winners. We are one of the largest PhD granting institutions in the country, and we are especially proud to rank among the country's top 10 institutions in awarding doctorates to students from underrepresented groups. I am confident in saying that no other graduate school in the country takes more seriously its public responsibilities or its mission to advance knowledge for the public good. The Graduate Center is not just a place dedicated to advanced education and research, it is also a laboratory of ideas, which delivers the finest research and scholarship to and far beyond the 5 boroughs. Each year, our doctoral students teach more than 130,000 undergraduates at the City University of New York, bringing the very best research and learning from the seminar room into the classroom. I hope that you will make a habit of attending our public programs, lectures, and events. In closing, I wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday season, and now it's my pleasure to introduce Norman Carey, Executive Officer for our Music Doctoral Programs, to tell you about tonight's event. Norm, thank you.
Thanks so very much, Josh. Let me begin by saying how grateful I am that you are all here and that we have this opportunity to honor one of the Graduate Center's truly outstanding faculty members. The music department here offers doctoral degrees in 5 areas: music performance, music theory, musicology, ethnomusicology, and composition. Tanya was appointed to the composition faculty in 1989 and officially stepped down just a few years ago. 1989, yeah. Along with the prodigious number of honors she has already amassed, Tanya has continued to have more heaped upon her even after receiving the Kennedy Center's honors the year before last. Carnegie Hall appointed her Richard and Barbara Debs Composer for 2023-24. She won this year's Nemers Prize in Composition, and she will be Composer in Residence for this year and next at the London Philharmonic. I had the pleasure of meeting Tanya even before I joined the faculty here in 2006. I knew that hers was a unique and compelling compositional voice, but until I met her at a concert at Eastman featuring her works, I didn't know how quickly she became your friend. The spirit of friendship extended to, so far as I can tell, everyone in her circuit. Most particularly, once I got to know some of her students, I could see that she treated them with the respect generally reserved for friends and colleagues. She endowed her students with her rare musical gifts, her love of teaching, and her humanity. No surprise to say her students adored her, and you'll hear from them tonight. You'll also hear some performances of her works, and we're just really grateful for the slate of spectacular performers who will be here, including her colleague Ursula Oppens from Brooklyn. Before we begin, I also want to extend a word of great thanks to Karen Sander, our fabulous Director of Public Programs, who's really made this all happen. Thank you, Karen. This evening, we're honored to have with us Terrance McKnight, who will serve as moderator for this evening's event, but you probably know his voice already from WQXR. Enough ado. It is my great pleasure to introduce Terrance McKnight and Tanya Leon.
We always meet like this, Tanya.
I know.
Our first meeting was very much like this, probably about 20 years ago. Yeah. Thank you all for being here to celebrate, one of our great composers, one of our great humanitarians, one of our great educators, and one of our great citizens of the world. She's being celebrated more probably in the last 10 years than in the first 70. It's great to see your career finding its stride. And I'm just delighted to be a part of this, where we get to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better, because I think there's something, and if you have ever spent time with Tanya, you know how special she is just as a human being without any of the music that she's written. You get the sense that you're in the presence of someone who's really caring and just really special and very thoughtful. And I think about something, Tanya, that your father said, and I want to come to that, and I'm going to come back to it later. And it was something about hearing you in your music, like inserting yourself into the sound that you're creating. So I want that to sort of be the through line, because I'd imagine as an educator, you have to sort of try to convey that to your students. Otherwise, how does one distinguish one composer from another if you're not really inserting yourself? So if you're inserting yourself into your music, if your music is about who you are as a human being, and you're always evolving and growing and changing, how do you become that human being that you want to become to make the best, most beautiful music that is able to bring people together? What has that journey been like for you? Just trying to be that human being that creates music that's representative of perhaps the beauty in yourself or the struggles that you go through, or whatever it is you're trying to insert in that music. What has that journey been like for you, Tanya?
Well, I really, hi, okay. I really don't know. I really don't know, because I am the project of my family. The Tania Leon project. It started when I was 4 years old, and my grandmother noticed that I was enamored of music somehow. They had a radio at home, and I would go to the radio, and I flip the stations, and if there was some salsa going on, or cha-cha-cha, whatever it was called at that time, I would leave the radio and start dancing. And she noticed that I was dancing at the rhythm. And she noticed that if they would repeat something, I will sing it exactly the way that I heard. I mean, the pitches and everything. So that's why she actually rushed me to a conservatory and told the teachers there to please try me, because she thought that I had something to do with music. They didn't want to take me because I was 4 years old. And I didn't know how to read and write. But my grandmother was very persistent. I think that she drove them crazy to the point that they say, yes, okay, we'll take her. And then the story is that, yeah, they had a point because they said, you know, how she's going to learn the theory. And my grandmother said, oh, no problem, she will. And the trick was that at home, you know, I'm coming from a very humble family, you know. So when you are in the islands, the sun is just tremendous. So you don't have a drying machine, you know. So the sun, you know, the line with the thing. So she would take me with her, and she would make me memorize the answers of the book of theory. And I think that to this day, I think that that I love poetry because of that. Because it became like poetry to me. I would go to the conservatory, and the teacher would say, ¿Qué es la música? And I would say, la música es el arte de bien combinar los sonidos del tiempo. Do I know what I was saying? Probably not. But I heard the question, and I would answer. And that's how the whole thing started. So I was a family project, and then my grandmother convinced everybody. And the most crazy thing that I ever still think about is when my grandfather went and got a second-hand piano, a real piano, and brought it into the house when I was 5 years old. So this is how this story started. So I never thought that I was going to be a professional musician until I started in my teens winning competitions as a pianist. And then my teacher, Edmundo Lopez, which is the one that introduced me to contemporary music, because I mean, I was actually studying under the French system. Everything is solfege, and, you know, and but with the masters, the music of the masters. But he was the one that introduced me to Bela Bartok, and that's how I started playing the microcosmos, you know, the etudes. So he went to France to give a recital, and he sent me a postcard. And this postcard is a postcard with a picture of the Torre Eiffel, so the Eiffel Tower. And I saw the picture, and very seriously, I went to my family. I said, "This is where I'm going to live." And they look at me like I was totally nuts, because how? How I was going to get to France? So when I migrated from Cuba, that's where I was going. The fact that I'm here is just destiny. You see?
Yeah, because Tanya, back in the 1960s, there were these flights called freedom flights. It was sponsored between the US government and the Cuban government. And it was, I mean, it was a huge deal. I think there were like 300,000 Cubans. But only 3% were Afro-Cubans. So,
Really?
yeah. So the fact that she ended up here, the percentages were pretty low.
Really?
Yeah, that's pretty stunning that you got here. But when you came here, you had this idea, Tanya, of becoming a concert pianist. And I'm wondering, like, what gave you the idea? I mean, you talked about listening to radio, but what, was there someone, was it Rubinstein, or was it Horowitz? Was it someone you were hearing on the radio? Was it someone you saw in concert that made you say, I want to do that thing?
Well, let me tell you something. At the conservatory, at the weekends, you know, I always went to the symphony orchestra. So I saw the soloists that came, and you know, I didn't see it, but my grandmother told me that one of the soloists that came from the United States to Cuba was Marianne Anderson. And she had a recital there, you know? And that's interesting because, I mean, she mentioned several names to me that perhaps were related to the fact that race was something to be concerned about, you know? But the thing is that my family was comprised of people of 3 different races. You know, the African, the Spanish, and the Chinese. So, I mean, and we never had that conversation at home. So, I mean, we were just us, you know? And that was my neighborhood also. The neighborhood, I mean, what we had in common is that we were poor. But the neighborhood was a mixed neighborhood. I mean, if you go to the islands, at least, you know, I mean, I think it's the same story. People go, migrate there, and they like each other, and that's it, you know? And some people, I mean, go, and they think that they were going to be there for a year or something like that, and stay forever. So that's what happened to the migration of my family, because, I mean, my grandfather was first generation born, 1902. My grandmother is like, you know, her father is descendant of Spanish with a woman which is descendant of slave. My mother was completely descendant of slave. So, I mean, we have this going on in the house, and everybody was contributed with their culture and their food. That's why I like Chinese food like crazy, because I saw it done, you know, I mean, and there are pictures of me dressed as a Spanish dancer because of my grandmother. And I went to, I mean, I took Spanish lessons and did the, you know, La Jota, you know, I mean, all of these things that you learn as a Spanish dancer. Mm-hmm. But I would like to say, though, that it took me 3 years without knowing that I was going to get a flight. And that flight was free. And I applied, you know, and that's the only lotto ticket that I have made in my life. Because it was, it was a lottery. And my number came up 3 years after I applied. So, I mean, that's why I say it was destiny. Yeah.
And then 40 years or so after you leave, your music is played back home. Am I making this up, or is that true?
Well, let me say, the first person that took my music home was Ursula Opens. Isn't that something?
And she just happens to be here tonight.
Ursula called me and she said, I'm going to Cuba, I'm going to play. I'm doing a recital. And she told me the day of the recital, and the day was Mother's Day. And I said, she asked me, would you write a piece for me? I said, sure. And then I wrote this piece for Ursula, and I gave her the score, and I signed the score. I said, Ursula, I'm going to call my mother for my mother to be in the audience. And if you could actually give this to my mother after you play the piece, I would really, you know, because this is her Mother's Day present. So I called my mother and said, you have to go to this recital. It's a friend of mine, she's going to play my piece. And my mother went, and Ursula played the piece. And after she played the piece, she stood up, took the score, and asked if my mother was in the audience. I mean, you know, I'm just narrating what you told me. And my mother was in the audience, and she actually made my mother, you know, she came to me, or you went to my mother? Well, so the thing is that she gave her the piece. And then after that, I called my mother, I said, what did you hear in the piece? And she said, the drums. I said, you're right. I don't know. My mother had, I mean, my entire family, you know, my mother, one of my competitions, I played the concerto, you know, by Schumann. The Schumann Concerto, Opus 54. And my mother, you know, sometimes I would be playing, if I made a mistake, she'd say, you made a mistake. Because, I mean, and she would be very proud talking to everybody, oh, my daughter plays the Schumann Concerto, Opus 54. And I look at me, like, you know, it's like, you're too much, Mima. you know, because I was the one that brought classical music to the home, and they loved it, and they got involved. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about culture. I mean, you talked about, you know, the different influences in your own family, but this idea of culture, Tanya, is sometimes viewed along racial, this false concept anyway, along racial lines. You know, you stay in this lane because that's your culture. You stay in this lane because that's your culture. And so we all walk in these lanes that are prescribed to us based on something external. How has it been for you trying to just embrace a world culture and insert that into your music and still be true to yourself and still be true to those people who are expecting something of you, expecting to hear that Cuban rhythm, expecting to hear whatever it is they expect because of how you look? So talk about those struggles, if you will, and talk about how you sort of transmit to your students that, you know, culture is, you know, perhaps something learned, something about, you know, how you grow up, where you grow up, as opposed to what you look like.
Okay. I was never so involved about my looks because I'm used to me. I look at myself in the mirror, I mean, it's me, you know. And I said, you know, I mean, at home, we never had that type of discussion. You see, we were just so, and my people were so vested in trying to make an income to give education to my brother and I, that I don't think that they had chance to be thinking about anything else. And, but for a certain reason, when I was a child, I saw some series on television that was a man called Flash Gordon. I don't know. Did you know the Flash Gordon? Right? And then, you know, I got enamored. I started saying that I wanted to be an astronaut. You know, you have no idea. I have a list of things. And the thing is that that propelled me to study a little bit about the universe. I love the universe, the situation about the stars, the black holes, everything that's going on, the extraterrestrials, the UFOs. You know, I have some friends that call me UFO. My friends say, you're nuts of a UFO. But the thing is that the way I see us, humanity, is like we are one more species in this planet. And we are in a planet that is going around, and because of gravity, we're sitting this way, and everything is moving. This is moving, that is moving, everything is moving. And so that's my philosophy, you know. And I think that human beings can have any kind of look, you know. It doesn't matter. And I don't have, you know, I'm anti-label. I don't like labels for people. You know, it's like everybody's categorized. You know, the 6 feet people, the 5 feet people, the 3 feet people. I mean, you know, skiing is a protector of the entire body. So if we get the skiing out and we all walk around, that's going to be very interesting. And we're going to die in a second because all the viruses are going to go boom, you know. We're going to be gone, you know. So these are the things that preoccupy me the most, as opposed to all the categories that we have to define a human being or to diminish a human being, one group as opposed to the other, and the ego and why there are so many fights and so many wars and so many, I mean, so many things that go through my head.
Yeah. By a show of hands, how many students do we have in here? Yeah. I had a conversation with some students a couple years ago about this idea of cultural appropriation. I got a phone call maybe 7 years ago from Thomas Hampson, famous baritone.
Really?
Yeah, it's a true story. And he didn't say it exactly like this, but this was the substance of the phone call. He said, hey man, you know, I'm thinking about singing these poems of Langston Hughes, these settings of Langston's poetry. How do you feel about that? I'm like, what do you mean, how do I feel about that? You don't need my permission? I didn't say that to Tom Hampson, but in essence, that's what I said. But it was a serious conversation about him taking these poems by Langston Hughes that had a lot to do with black culture. And I said to him, I said, Tom, man, this is American culture. This is human culture. I said, you know, if you respect the culture and you can do the music with some dignity, by all means, sing those songs. Get those songs out there when you go to Germany. Get those songs out there when you go to Vienna. Langston wants his poetry to be heard. There's some great settings of his music, and I know there are a lot of students and professionals who are having these conversations right now about cultural appropriation. And Tanya, one beautiful thing, so many beautiful things about your career and your music, I see all kinds of folks with all kinds of skin performing your music. And I think you do, and you write music for so many different types of people. And I think it does so much in terms of bringing the human collective together and starts to break down some of those barriers. And that's so important. And I'm wondering, is that a conscious effort on your part, or is it that just who you are, how your parents raised you to be? Where did that impetus come from?
Well, it's all mixed. It's what I was saying before. You know, I tell everybody I'm not what I look like. Interesting, eh? And the thing is that why? Because I don't know, maybe this is something that I learned from my mother. My mother was sort of like a spiritualist, you see? And she did a couple of things that were very strange, meaning my mother would tell me, don't let anybody touch your head, for example. And she meant my mind, in a way. But she would tell me things like that. And my mother would tell me, oh, you're having a problem with a piece. Talk to Beethoven. I said, what? Yeah, you can talk to Beethoven. You know, things like that, you know. And my philosophy is that I'm not what I look like. This is just the house of my soul, the house of my spirit. And the thing is that we have this emphasis about how you look like. And the thing is that inside of this machine, it's like everybody. I have a heart, I have a liver, you know, I have bones, and you know. So where is this? And let me tell you something. This came to my mind even more. I was able to bring my mother here many, many times. I was able to get my mother to Geneva to be there for the opening of my opera, you know? Because, I mean, I don't believe in impossible. Everything is possible, you see? And how she got to Geneva? Because the Geneva Opera House talked to the government talked to the government of Cuba. All of a sudden, I said, my mother, go, you have a visa. You're going to Geneva, do you know what I mean? And my mother was flown to Madrid, from Madrid to Geneva, and she arrived 2 hours before curtains up. Everybody was, is your mother here, is your mother here, is your mother here, you know? So, I mean, my point is that my mother died in 2014. And I was there. I was in Cuba with her. And my brother was holding her right arm, her right hand. I was holding her left hand. And that's how my mother left. So we were there, and the nurse came back and she said, your mother is dead. I said, impossible. Your mother is dead. But I didn't see her spirit live in the body. I told that to the woman. The woman looked at me like I was crazy. But they see, and my mother was gone. And I realized when my mother was gone, when we went to the funeral parlor and they were fixing her, and I saw this doll that, you know, I mean, it was unbelievable. Because I said, where is my mother, you know? I didn't have that reaction that people have, that you start crying and everything. You know, well, where's my mother? You know, you see? Until, of course, you know, after the funeral, they actually carry the box. And I used to look at my mother behind the glass. And it was the most incredible thing that I experienced in my life. To this day, I still talk to my mother. I talk to my grandmother. I talk to all of them because I can't believe that this energy disappears just like that. And that is when I said, wait a minute, this is just a hotel. You see? So therefore, all of these situations that we have about cultures and appropriation, I mean, look, all the rhythms that the Spanish music has is thanks to the Moors that were there for 800 years. The music of Cuba is a melange. It's a melange of the Amerindians, in other words, the Indians that were there, traces of. Then the Spaniards came in. Then the Africanos came in. Then the Chinese came in. I mean, all of that is in there. It's generations and generations and generations and generations. Sometimes I hear the cantejondo of the Spanish, you know, and then I hear the cantors, I just say, wait a minute, wait a minute. I mean, you see? So in other words, we are actually constantly infusing each other. And that's why we get languages and we get, I mean, traditions, I mean, you know, all of these is humanity interacting with each other. So even culture, you say, well, my culture, no, your culture, you know, I mean, even that is encaustic, you know, which is one of the techniques that the Egyptians use, you know, in their art.
Is this the type of knowledge it takes to get a Kennedy Center honor, to be a Kennedy Center honor?
You have no idea. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If you see me speaking with the president, by the way, you know, I would say that I was in shock because he grabbed me by my hand and said, come. And he was showing to me the desk at the Oval Office, you know, and explaining to me the different the carvings in the desk and the whole thing. I don't know why he did that, you know, but I was thinking, whoa, this is the President of the United States, whoa. You know, this is what I was thinking of, thinking as the human being, not what he represented. And that he grabbed me by the hand, he just met me, and he said, come, you know? And he showed me that, and that is when the photographer said, we're taking a picture. We turn, and there I am with the president holding hands in that picture. I mean, it was an incredible moment.
What did you say to your mom? What did you say to your grandmother as you were sitting there? Because I saw pictures, and you looked like you were 14 years old. I'm thinking, what happened to Tanya? Who is this? It was incredible. What was the conversation around that honor?
Well, you have to understand that, you know, when they, all of the people that become, you know, honorees, we don't know what we're going to see. Everything is a surprise. So Anna de Beer Smith started talking. She talked about mamota. That's how we used to call my grandmother. So that's how the whole thing started. I said, oh my God. So she said, mamota and this, and they started putting things. And then, I don't know if you saw it, but all of a sudden was the picture of my grandparents. And I said, how did these people get this? They do a complete research about you. And they have a team of people working on your story. And that is when I started crying. I couldn't hold it because here they are. They are the ones that started this thing.
And one of your pieces that we're going to hear today is Mother's Prayer.
Yes, that is a song.
You wrote the text for this?
No,
Okay. You wrote the music?
I wrote the music, and the text is Wole Soyinka.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's a wonderful person that a wonderful, incredible artist and writer and poet, and you know, that I had the privilege to work with.
And so we're going to hear two other compositions, right? Ursula's going to play something tonight.
Yes, the piece that I wrote was for my mother with the drums.
Yeah. And then the Bergamot Quartet is going to play
Yes.
tonight. So you all are in for a treat. We're going to hear three of Tanya's compositions. Right now we're going to meet two of her students to really see and good. I want to introduce you. Let's bring them up, Tanya. Is a doctoral candidate at the Graduate Center and a mentee of Tanya since 2015. Polina is an active composer and recently had works performed by the San Francisco Ballet, the Bolshoi Ballet, Minnesota Orchestra, Albany Symphony. In May 2024, More Dance Company of New York will premiere their third collaboration, a new ballet called Trees. Karen Siegel is another student. Karen received her PhD from CUNY Graduate Center in 2014, where she studied with Tanya. Karen's best known for her work as a choral composer and composes for choirs around the country and internationally. Her recent commissions include the choral sound installation Lessons of Stone. That was written for the Astoria Choir and the Noguchi Gallery in Long Island City, and the feminist collaborative work Visions of Flight for the Danish National Girls Choir. Please welcome the students.
Four, five.
Now, I'm not going to direct these at you all individually, but you all can just jump in.
All right.
What's it like studying with Tanya Leon? What do you remember? If there's one thing that she said to you, some instruction that she gave you that just stays with you, you know, what is that?
Well, I can't just say one thing. But, I mean, all her students talk about her circle, the famous circle she draws. She's explaining how you should visualize time as continuous. And I think a lot still, not necessarily about the circle itself, but about this whole idea of the flow of time through music. And that Tanya taught me to liberate it from the box of the measure. You know, she teaches all of us that the bar lines, the meter, they're only there to synchronize the musicians. And it's up to you to do whatever you want. You just have to find a way to give a conductor something to conduct, because otherwise everything will fall apart. And I still think a lot about that, actually. And I've experimented through the years in different ways of finding that flow, that movement. And when you say that you're always moving, that we're always moving, it's like, well, of course you are. Your music is always moving, and that's what drew me to it. And I'm thinking always about how is my music moving, and I get that from you.
I'm going to come back to you, Polina, because 2 days ago when I started thinking about what I was going to call Tanya and say, Tanya, what should we talk about? And as I opened my phone, the first name that came up in my contacts was Arthur Mitchell. and there was his email address and his phone number, and I wanted to press the phone, but I thought, I don't know what's going to happen if I press his phone number, and I'm not going to do it. And when I'm hearing your student talk, Tanya, I think about Arthur Mitchell and your involvement with the Dance Theater of Harlem, and how important that was for you as a young person getting to this country and finding that community and finding Arthur Mitchell and him bringing you in and holding you close and really giving you an opportunity to become great. And when I'm looking at your students and I'm watching them look at you, I see that same sort of commitment and adoration and just devotion to someone who has given them perhaps something that they didn't have before. Can you just, Paulina, I'm coming back to you. Can you tell us a little bit about that foray, that first, interaction with Arthur Mitchell and what that meant for you?
Well, every time I get sentimental. Every time I met Arthur because it was destiny also. I have been in New York less than 1 year. I was given, because of my chops, I was given a scholarship to validate my degree as a pianist. I was immersed at NYU learning English. I didn't speak English when I arrived in the United States. And they told me that I had to speak English because it was not do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si. It was A, B, C, D, E, F. You see what I mean? And again, the theory of anyway. The thing is that I was at NYU, and a classmate of mine, also pianist, Laura Wilson was her name. I don't know if she's around or not. But she became ill with the flu, and she sort of approached me about going and replacing her Saturday in a school that she played in Harlem. And when she said Harlem, I said, oh, Harlem, like the movies, because that's the only thing that I knew about Harlem. I have seen Harlem in the movies in Havana. And she told me I took the D train. I didn't know that the D train was a song by Ellington. But I took the D. When I arrived here, I only knew Leonard Bernstein, and that's another story that I'll tell you someday. But it was Leonard Bernstein and Gershwin. Gershwin. Yeah, Leonard Bernstein and Gershwin. And Leonard Bernstein because they had a clip, and Aaron Copland, and they had a clip of West Side Story. And I remember Tony singing Maria, and that's the first thing that I said when I actually was driven from the airport to friends of mine that I stayed with at the Bronx. The stairs were out, and I started singing, Maria, 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 and they said, Maria what? I said, yeah, so that was my connection to New York. But the thing is, I took the train to a place called the Harlem School of the Arts. And I met somebody there that was actually the founder, Dorothy Maynard. I didn't know Dorothy Maynard was this incredible opera singer, and I didn't know I was just there. And I went to the room to company, Meta Spagnardi, which was a teacher from Czechoslovakia that didn't speak English either. So this was very interesting, the way that we did that class. Ta 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 ta, and then I read so that was the class. And in between the classes there was a pause, and I stayed by myself, playing the piano. I didn't have a piano, so therefore, and it was a baby grand, and I couldn't speak English, so therefore, I was just, practicing, and and the door opened, and there was this man that crossed the room, and I followed him because he was spectacular. His demeanor, the way that he walked, his look and everything, I was like, woo, and he disappears. Okay? Well, about 2 or 3 lessons after, I was doing the same thing, enjoying myself, the piano by myself, and the door opened, there was the same fellow. And I said, well, okay, he's gonna go that way. Nope, he came my way. And we both laughed. We both look at each other, and I said, no English. And so he was adorable. He said, Mamacita, he started pulling out all kinds of names, and his face was so wonderful. I look at him like, oh my God. Well, the thing is that, he sort of like told me, and I scribbled the number that I had, and but I didn't know. And about 2 weeks after, somebody called in Spanish to my friends and asked for me if I could go to the same place. I didn't know that that's what I call destiny. My life was changing that moment. I went back to the Harlem School of the Arts, and I went actually to what it was like the gym. And there was a bar, 4 young dancers, Arthur, which I didn't know who he was, me. And so he started, lessons, and I borrowed the books, and when I started opening the books, he said, no books, no books. He wanted me to play, and I'm improviser, so I improvise everything. And he started sort of like moving, and I started doing improvisation. And that was the first lesson of a project he had in mind that became the Dance Theater of Harlem. So, months after, I was explaining what he had in mind about doing this company to prove that the people of color could dance ballet. I loved the idea, and we joined forces. And the interesting thing is that those 4 women were Patsy Ricketts, Sheila Rohans, Lydia Barca, and Virginia Johnson. And later on, Virginia Johnson actually is the one that took over the Dance Theater of Harlem. And Arthur and I, we were together until the end, because about a week before he died, he was going to the hospital, and he called me and he said, I'm going to the hospital, but don't visit me, okay? And that's it. And the next thing that I hear is that he was dead. So, so that is how important this man had been to me. He was a brother. He provided me with a family I didn't have in this country. All the dancers became they taught me how to eat soul food, and they taught me all the different steps of the dancing at that time. The local dancing, the dancing of the people of color. And Arthur made me take ballet lessons. So and all these people started coming to Dance Theater of Harlem, Cicely Tyson, and Poitier, Harry Belafonte, or Lena Horne. It was like, meeting all these people. I didn't know who these people were. And I didn't know who Arthur were until Arthur gave me the first ticket for me to go to Lincoln Center. And I went to New York City Ballet, and I opened the program, and there was his face. And then the curtain went up, and there was him on stage. It was so tremendous. And one of the first people that started coaching us was George Balanchine, who gave him the ballets. It's a very incredible story, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
So, Paulina, as a student of Tanya's, you get to hear these stories, and you get to know about, her experiences. I'm wondering, on your palette of all the things you're able to do as a composer, as a musician, what's that thing that Tanya was able to put on your palette that perhaps wasn't there before, or that you turn to in particular moments when maybe you're stuck?
I was inspired by Professor Leon always, her work with dance, and since 2018 I've written 7 ballets, so the genre found me, and I always look up to Professor Leon, how she works with dance. But I also wanted to talk a little bit beyond music, and how students receive this love, and the generosity of heart is tremendous. Professor Leon always looks at you and she knows how you feel. And I remember that I used to come and I wasn't feeling that great. And she would ask, what's wrong? And I would come up with the craziest phobias, and I would say, I feel bad for the pigeons on the street. And I was that kind of, second teenage crisis at the age of 28. And she used to say, they're tough, they're New Yorkers. And then she would stop, and I would think to myself, maybe I can be tougher, just like those birds. And then she would, continue and ask, okay, show me something from your music. And I'm from a small town in post-Soviet Russia. And I would sing, Ty svoje соловейка. She's like, that's the sound you want. So it's beyond music, it's the generosity of heart that I remember, and in the moments of doubt, I remember the love.
Can I jump in a little bit while we're talking about Tanya's humanity and warmth? I remember something about the timing of my lessons. The janitor used to come quite frequently during our lessons to empty the trash. And you would always stop the lesson, because you had to say hi, and exchange a few words and ask how he was doing. And that's so you. That's Tanya in a nutshell, that it could be the music department chair, or the president, or the janitor. It doesn't really matter. Whoever it is, that's a person in front of you, and you're going to treat them with warmth and kindness.
That deserves 30 seconds of silence. Let's hear her music. I want to thank her students, Paulina and Karen, for being here. Let's give them a warm round of applause. And I want to thank you all for coming out. So right now, Tanya and I are going to go back to our seats. We're going to hear 3 of her compositions, and then we're going to go across the hall and socialize. So sit back and enjoy the sound of Tanya Leon.
Terrance, the honor is mine. You know, I mean, that you play these pieces, you know. And I have no idea how you play them. You know, I mean, this specific piece in certain areas is about salsa. I don't know if you got it. You have to have it. You know, you know that. You know, so that is the use, and you capture it, you know, and there's a CD out, you know, I mean, in the piece, and Susan Parent's piece is in there too. And it's a wonderful colleague, faculty here, you know. And but where is the other people? That's why I didn't get off, because I thought. And where's Ursula? Ursula, I mean, and the other players?
Floating around.
That's what we do. We play the piece and disappear.
I know the pianist of our piece is upstairs practicing.
Well, I just went to, is Ursula here?
I'll turn on the microphone.
No, it's not. And is Ursula always here? Come. Yes, I mean, amazing, amazing. Everybody amazing, and again, you know, all of you, and you know, I mean, we composers try to say whatever we have to say, and I want to give credit to my father, because after not seeing him in 12 years, you know, when I was all the Cubans that have left for a long time, we were actually brought back as family reunification, and that's how, it's the first time I saw my father with white hair. And when I was leaving, my father very seriously said to me, "Your music sounds very interesting, but where are you in your music?" And that is when I actually started sort of like putting my music, things that I never did before, because I thought that it was not going to be kosher. and that's when the salsa came in, and that's when the craziness about doing something with the voice, that there's no tesitura. It's like you go up, you go down, it's like an elevator, right? and things like that. And my dearest colleague, you know, we have been collaborating since the first piece that I wrote for you was A la Par. A la Par, and that was about 84, 85, and then in 88, I did Cabiosile for piano and orchestra, you know, for the American Composers Orchestra.
And ethos?
And then, wait a minute, then it was Mystica, and then Ethos, which is the piano quintet with the cassette. Yes.
So we've really enjoyed
We have a
being
history.
friends and being colleagues. I mean, it's just...
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So, thank you so much. I'm very grateful.